Welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio, where we bring you conversations with the top business minds on Long Island and around the nation every week. Featuring expert consultants and small business owners who have found success but are also willing to share their top tips, failures, and give gritty, matter-of-fact advice based on their firsthand experience. Now, let's get down to business on Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Hello and welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio. My name is Ray Schwetz, AVP of Business Banking at Jovia Financial Credit Union, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, CEO, keeper of the brand, marketing, and digital agency.
We're focused on being the premier resource for business and entrepreneurship. We bring you weekly business advice, tips, tools, and services that help you grow your business. Plus, we interview some of the top leaders in the industry.
Yes, and we have somebody that I'm very excited about, a friend of yours and mine, DB. So helping provide us with business and nonprofit power empowerment today is Renee Flagler. She is the Executive Director of Girls Incorporated of Long Island. Renee is a speaker, author, and passionate leader in the nonprofit sector, helping women thrive. So welcome back to the show. It's great to have you back, Renee.
Thanks for having me back. I hope my radio voice is as good as yours.
Oh, you sound great.
Absolutely.
Much better, actually. So it's been a little while. Why don't you just kind of bring us up to speed? Tell us what's been going on in life.
Oh, everything and nothing at the same time. Everything that everybody's been going through and nothing. But with Girls Inc., quite a bit. We've grown so much over the past couple of years that I'm really excited about it, even with the pandemic. Of course, we had this major dip in the pandemic, and but it has taught us a lot about business, about programming, about our girls. And so there's a lot of things that we do the same, and it's so much that we do very differently. We are really focused more on, even more so than before, really being relevant, really responding to the needs of girls, really paying attention to what they need, how they need it, so we can, be what we say we are, the leaders in issues impacting girls. So we've seen some things kind of rise up, like mental health, and so we're doing everything to be more responsive to that, as well as give them the tools to make sure that they're strong, smart, and bold. So we're just out here doing the best we can, having some fun in the meantime, changing girls' lives, and it's beautiful to see.
Yes, I would agree. And I think one of the things that's great, I don't want to say great about the pandemic, because there's nothing great about the pandemic.
Nothing.
But one of the outcomes that was a silver lining, I'll say, was just that people are more aware of mental well-being and how important that is and how that affects everything. So,
absolutely.
And just to bring it back a little bit, just for the uninitiated. So what is the mission of Girls Inc.?
So the mission of Girls Inc. of Long Island is to empower all girls to be strong, smart, and bold. And that equates to being healthy, educated, and independent.
Now, how do people find Girls Inc., specifically Long Island?
Sure. So Girls Inc. Long Island is the local affiliate to the National Girls Inc. organization. We're all independently owned and operated, but there's about 80 of us. So for Girls Inc. Long Island specifically, you would go to girlsincli.org. Our offices are in Deer Park, but we provide programs to girls all across the island. So we're in several schools, all the way from the west all the way to the end.
Now, how do the schools engage you?
So we normally go into the schools either by the request of principals, superintendents, sometimes parents, or school administrators have recommended we come. We're actually in Sachem because of a young girl. One of the girls who did our community program, she comes to our summer camps. She's part of our leadership program that meets on the weekends. And she was saying, my school needs this. The girls in my school really, really need this. And she advocated, which is what we teach them to do.
Nice.
So she advocated, and we are now in her school district because of her, getting us to the right people. So we work directly with the districts.
That's great. And when you go in, are girls engaging in workshops? Is it before, is it after school, or is it during the sessions? Like maybe on the lunch break, they can break off and have a Girls Inc. experience.
So the majority of our programs meet in the afternoon after school. So it's kind of like an after school club. So we'll have a certain room that we're in, and at the end of the girls' day, they will come into that particular location. We do have one or two schools that may meet in the morning, and we have done school day programs in the past.
Now, you touched upon before that the nonprofits, you've adapted quite a bit over the past couple of years. How have you seen the nonprofit? Because you're very involved in Girls Inc., obviously, and that's your first love. But I know that you also partner with other nonprofits, and you're kind of aware of just the sector in general. So how have you seen that sector kind of evolve over the last couple of years?
By being very innovative and very creative, you know. Adopting initially, let's say at the beginning of the pandemic, kind of adopting to virtual programs and opportunities, reaching, the folks that we do serve. When it comes to raising funds, finding interesting and innovative ways to use Zoom and, all the other digital platforms to raise. We now we don't have cash at all, like at our annual events anymore, because everything is online and at the tip of your fingertips. So people donate with their phones when we do the appeals. So it's a number of things. When you had to be really fiscally responsible during the pandemic. You really had to watch every expense so keenly because you weren't really getting a lot of funding in. And funding was kind of being directed. And this is a good thing for some and not so good for other nonprofits. But during that time, a lot of funding was being directed towards like critical service, like homelessness, food insecurities, because there was such a huge just blossoming issue when it came to food insecurity. So, people kind of direct their funding, especially the generous, gifters, like this is a big crisis right now. So all the funding goes there. So some of the other nonprofits that were not necessarily responding to emergency type of services weren't getting as much funding, or unrestricted funding. So being very keen about your finances, being innovative about still reaching the audience, because even though we were not able to be in schools, the girls still needed us. And actually, they needed us even more. So we did things like literally call the homes, call the girls, check in on them, personally. We transformed all of our programming into virtual programming. We realized that there's a huge information gap, so we did what we can to respond to that. There were families, we serve a lot of girls who are from lower income communities or under-resourced communities, and so they didn't have the devices. So, we raise funds and to help get devices into the hands of girls. We have snacks and all kinds of things like that and supplies, hygiene supplies, all kinds of stuff. We donated them. We brought those over to communities who were in need of those particular items. Some of our school districts kind of became home bases for some of the needs of the community. And we just tried to be there every possible way, give girls the outlet that they need, give them the support that they need, give them the safe space that they need, even virtually, until we were able to come back together. And that was another, a new normal that we came into.
Absolutely. And so now during the pandemic, we saw a lot. We all felt a lot of different energy. And so the need for diversity, equity, and inclusion really sparked its eye. How has DE&I awareness helped Girls Inc. and has it?
So we are at the center of DEIA, right? Because we are a girl-serving organization, preparing girls now and for the future to overcome obstacles, to, find their voice, to know who they are, to embrace themselves and their talents. And even if your talent brings you into a room full of other, right? How to kind of hold your own in that particular process. Diversity is part of our curriculum. Advocacy is part of our curriculum. We're also an advocacy organization. So nationally, we advocate for gender equity and girls' rights. So by the nature of being an organization that's fighting for rights for girls who are tomorrow's women in workforce, that's standing in the gap when it comes to gender equity, that puts us right in the center of being an organization that's focused all the time on DE&I.
And and what I'm hearing is that you really help girls defend our democracy.
Absolutely, 100%. And we fight for it. We have a national public policy office in Washington, D.C. It's part of the national. So nationally, we advocate. Locally, we provide the programs.
Yeah. One of the things that makes you such an effective leader in the nonprofit sector, I think anyway, is your background.
Thank you.
You are. The work that you're doing, it's God's work. You're doing great work. You're making an impact, and you can see that impact, which is a wonderful thing. But I think part of what makes you effective is your background, because you have a background in education, you have a background as a business strategist. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that and how that might be helpful for the advocacy for helping young women thrive?
Absolutely. So, yes, the background in marketing and strategy was really helpful. For a nonprofit organization, the best thing we can do is tell the story. Yes. Tell the story of the constituents, of the people that we serve, the humans that we serve. And I believe that my background in marketing really, and I've served in corporate marketing for about a little over a decade, really helps me to figure out how to best tell the story. We have been able to incorporate, we don't have a marketing department, but we've been able to incorporate strategies for branding and marketing into our day-to-day operations. So we go through our marketing strategy, we decide what do we want to accomplish this year, what kind of theme do we want to accomplish, what do we want people to know about our girls, about our program, and then we kind of divide that up, and whoever is in whatever department that it makes sense to kind of drop those strategies there, we have them do this. So we have folks from programming navigating the story because they're with the girls all the time through social media, so that has been extremely helpful. Coming from a corporate background and having done coaching and having, been an entrepreneur, that's really helpful because running a nonprofit is running a business at the end of the day. Now, it's what I call heart work. It's not hard work. It's heart work.
I love that.
But you have to wrap that heart work around some strong business strategies. So when you come into situations like, times where you have to really fiscally monitor your organization to ensure that you stay afloat, those type of skills really come into play. We went into making sure that we reforecasted literally on a quarterly basis. Let's see where we are financially. What can we do? What can't we do? How do we save? How do we, minimize expenses? How do we maximize? When it comes to the staff, we do strategic planning from at every level of the organization. The board gets involved with the strategic planning. The staff, we hear the word of the staff. A lot of times, staff is not involved in strategic planning. It's usually done at the executive level, and they're the ones that has to execute. But I believe if you're the one that's executing and implementing the strategy, you should have a voice in the development of the strategy. And what that does is it gives the employees ownership and buy-in. And so they're really serious about executing their portion of the strategy because they know how it ties into the big picture and moves the organization forward. So those are some of the ways that I think my background has benefited me.
I think that really differentiates your organization from others, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and it's that's what other nonprofits, I think they need to make sure that they focus on is they need to focus on telling their story. And they need to focus on keeping up with their strategy. You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, and our guest today, Renee Flagler. She is the Executive Director of Girls Inc. of Long Island. When it comes to advocacy, I think it's amazing the story you just said about the girl in Sachem who advocated for herself. And that's something that, look, we try to teach all of our daughters. I have 3 daughters, and definitely advocacy is key amongst that. Kudos to the school for doing the listening, because sometimes you don't see that in organizations.
Isn't that amazing?
So I think that does say a lot about our Long Island school districts and how they are listening. One of the things that also struck me was when you talk about the story and how important the story is to the organization. I think a lot of companies are trying to do DEI work, and what's falling flat maybe is that they're not focusing on the stories that make us all relatable. And that's really, at the end of the day, look, we have to celebrate our differences and we have to come together. And there's so many things pushing us apart. I think it's wonderful that the work that you're doing is kind of bringing us back together. What other ways do you feel like Girls Inc. is kind of making an impact in the community?
I would definitely say when it comes to the girls themselves, the changes that I have been able to see, the transformations, the changes in trajectory for the girls is first and foremost the most rewarding thing to witness. I mean, it really makes me the proudest executive director I could possibly be. I had the pleasure of taking one of our girls with me yesterday to an event for Girls Inc. National, where she actually was able to stand up in front of, national funders and speak to her story and her experience in Girls Inc. and her personal transformation. And she spoke about how, her biggest regret when it comes to Girls Inc. is not joining sooner because of everything that she was able to do and come. So she spoke to the fact that she's way more confident, that she's pursuing things that she never would have pursued, that she felt like she was just in a room full of people, but wasn't seen and wasn't heard and really didn't have a place. But when she came into Girls Inc., she felt like Amy. Like, I'm Amy. Like, I'm seen, I'm heard, I have an opinion. People are hearing me, they're listening to me, they're helping me, and they're shaping me. And so stories like that is really that transformative stuff. Seeing girls go from not speaking, barely opening their mouths, to standing in front of an audience at a luncheon and speaking about their experience, no matter how harrowing or great. Seeing girls meet people for the first time, because we connect a lot with the business community, and say, wow, you do this job. I never knew this job existed. I don't have anybody in my family that does any kind of work like this. And then the next thing you know, they're going to school for that thing. They're going to school for STEM. They're going to school for computer science. We have one girl who literally did, this is one of my proudest moments. She usually comes back in the summer to intern, and she called and she was like, Miss Renee, I can't come back this summer because I'm doing an internship with the CDC in epidemiology. And I was like, girl, you better not come back here this summer. So, that exposure. We have girls who were participated in our summer programs at BNL, and then won coveted opportunities to intern with these scientists in like their senior year or college year. So the transformation is amazing to see a young woman blossom, own her space, learn things, and even take that and apply it in other areas of life where you wouldn't expect it. We had one girl who her mother was going through a really hard time. And she said, I told my mother the stuff that you guys taught us in Girls Inc., and now my mother's doing better.
Wow.
That is incredible.
You're really making an impact and a difference in the community. And so how long has Girls Inc. Long Island been in existence, and how long have you been serving the community, for those who may not be aware?
So Girls Inc. of Long Island has been in existence for 18 years.
Oh, wow.
We didn't start in the 1900s. We started
in the late 1900s.
No, we started in 2005. But we have Girls Inc.'s around the country that are old as 160 years old. It was started in 1864 in Waterbury, Connecticut.
And what inspired you to get involved with Girls Inc. and really launch Girls Inc. Long Island?
So a long time ago, in my corporate days, where you go through that moment where you're like, I want to do something more meaningful, I discovered that one of my passions, besides writing, was serving youth. And it started with the very first, like, real visceral and just hugely meaningful moment was me going into a home with girls, with runaway girls who were pregnant, runaway pregnant teens, and working with them for 6 years to do workshops and just lift their spirits and things like that. And I knew then that, like, this is where God is putting me. This is where I'm supposed to do this. So when opportunity came to work with Girls Inc., I was like, this is the epitome of what I'm supposed to do, to be able to impact the lives of girls and work with them and be a part of a real life-changing curriculum where they're having fun, they're getting amazing life skills, and we're helping them through some of the toughest times in their lives and helping them navigate some of the toughest decisions and situations that they've ever could go through. So it was easy for me when the opportunity became available. Like, this is where I'd love to be. And it was a match because within 48 hours of sending my resume, I had an offer to join the team.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that means it's meant to be.
Absolutely.
100%. Now, you've talked about the impact, and I think it might help folks to just understand what type of curriculum you offer. So could you kind of take us through, because a lot of it is very creative, a lot of it is very impactful to our society and what's going on today.
Right. It's not just home economics, right?
No,
not at all.
Exactly.
Not at all.
Far from home.
Far from home ec.
And you hit the nail on the head.
Right,
That's basically where I'm going. Is I'd just like to know, like, because it's innovative stuff. So let's share some of that.
So our mission is strong, smart, and bold, right? And it sounds wonderful, but that's how we operationalize the mission. So strong is everything that helps a girl become strong, mentally, physically, emotionally. So it can include anything from sports programming to coping skills when it comes to their mental and emotional health and well-being. We do nutritional programs. So we've had things like a tennis camp. We just did a golf camp. And so that's smart, that's strong. So everything you need to be strong, inside and outside, literally teaching them resilience and grit, dealing with the issues, impacting, that impact them on a daily basis, and learning from them what that looks like so we can make sure we stay relevant. SMART is all of our academic enrichment programming, educational programming, and we also have a very strong focus on STEM because, the advocacy side of us, we want to be able to impact the STEM field. There's a huge gender gap in STEM. So we want to help fill that gap. Right. And then the last part is bold. So bold is also all about independent living and life skills. And that bridges the gap between academics and successful living. It's the stuff that we don't get in school that we wish we had, but it's also the stuff that a lot of girls, no matter what type of household you come from, don't necessarily get from home as well. So I always say whether your parents are working 3 jobs to keep food on the table, and they're not there, or they're, high-level executives that are, traipsing the world to do all kinds of amazing things, not there is not there.
Absolutely.
Right? These are the life skills that are truly necessary for you to live successful. Things like financial literacy, advocacy, advocating for yourself and advocating for things that are really important to your life or your family, diversity programming, college and career education and exploration, leadership and community action. Like, this is not stuff you get in school. And it's empowering and not enabling.
Yeah.
Right? So our girls can live independently, stand on their own 2 feet, understand what it takes to be successful, and have some resilience and grit, and know how to deal with the things that they faced inevitably, right? You got hard stuff, right? Pick your hard.
Yeah.
Right? And know how to deal.
Everybody.
Know how to deal with it.
You're listening to Tower Talk Business Radio. Our guest today is Renee Flagler, Executive Director of Girls Inc. of Long Island. My name is Donyshia Boston-Hill, along with Ray Schwetz on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Now, going back to what you were saying about, I think it's wonderful that you're basically putting together curriculum that enhances what they're learning in school. Because I feel like in school you learn kind of the building blocks, but then it's, all right, how do you apply that to life? And when the hard hits you, how do you apply your knowledge and become someone who's effective in what they're doing? I also think it's amazing what you're doing as far as, again, going back to the DEI space. I think a lot of the things that are missing is people don't understand it's not about minorities. It's about everyone, because when you're focusing on DEI inclusion, you're basically making the world a better place, because now you're learning from folks that you may not have learned from before. And I think that includes the younger generation. I think that includes the age population. And I'll give you some examples. I myself, I have an employee who's a younger guy. And as much as I'm mentoring him, he's mentoring me.
Absolutely.
I'm learning everything about what I need to know to communicate with this generation, because it's different. Every generation's different. And I want to learn that because I want to be effective with that group. I want to learn from them. And I think from the age population, that growing age population, with all the advances we have in medicine, it's just growing and growing and growing. And we have all this wealth of experience. Why aren't we learning from it? So I think it's wonderful that's one of the main focuses of Girls Inc. And I think that, again, kudos to you for continuing that work. Now, obviously, there's a lot to like about what you do. You learn about the mission. It's hard not to fall in love with it. But what are the things that you enjoy most? Like, it gets you up out of bed and you're there and you're in the office and you're doing your thing, or out in the community doing your thing.
I think it would be 2 things. Any time that I get to spend with the girls is just, it warms my heart. I need fixes. Like, if I'm out in the world too much and I'm with the corporations and I'm raising funds and I'm focusing on branding and marketing, every now and then I just need to dip my toe, and I'll just show up at programs and just hang with the girls and things like that. So that is the most rewarding piece, especially seeing them grow, and seeing a girl who was in the program 2 or 3 years or something. And we have this thing, like, you can always tell a Girls Inc. girl. There's an air of confidence, in a Girls Inc. girl. There's an air of self-awareness, strength and voice, the way they carry themselves, the way they speak. It's a matter of impact. So I just love witnessing that. So that's one of my most favorite things to do, is just hang out with the girls whenever and wherever I can.
I love that. And people gravitate towards folks like that, and they bring people together. What do you say is like the biggest misconception about Girls Inc.?
This is one that just does not tickle my fancy.
Yeah, let's nip this in the bud.
Let's nip this in the bud,
yes,
right?
I love
We
it.
are not an organization that just helps girls build their confidence. Right?
Yes.
Right. These girls don't need saviors, right? They need support. They need people who's going to help break barriers and ceilings on their behalf for them. They need access. They need opportunities. They need tools, right? They need to know who they are. They need to know that wherever they go, that they are welcome there and that they have a place at the table and they belong at the table. And if they're treated like they don't belong at the table, flip that table, get your own table, buy your own table, make your own table,
Yes.
whatever it is. But to just stand in your space and be okay with who you are and know that you have the right to be wherever you are and to do whatever it is that you want to do. So I feel like it diminishes us when we say that it's just about helping girls build confidence. It's that, but it's so much more, because confidence is not going to break a ceiling. Confidence is not necessarily going to open that door. Confidence coupled with several other things will do that.
Now, can you share your top 3 to 5 tips and advice on, for nonprofits?
Okay. First and foremost, get a board that is diverse in every possible way. And I mean talent, industry, age, ability. It's very important because they are your thought leaders. They are your think tank. And it's so important for them to be effective like that. Number 2, diversity. Diversity is extremely important at every level of the organization, and it should be the lifeblood of the organization. So it should be part of the DNA, not a checklist. That's something you do or you check off or things like that. And number 3, I would say when it comes to, there's an understanding that you are always building. You are always growing. So a growth mindset is extremely important when it comes to running a nonprofit organization. A growth mindset will make you look at something and figure out how it can be done, as opposed to limiting yourself and saying, we can't do this.
Now, you have a lot of great programs and things that are going on. How do folks find out about Girls Inc. and how to get involved?
Absolutely. So we are all over social media. We have Instagram, Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. Our website is girlsincli.org. We're always looking for new partners, people to join our Circle of Champion Society, girls who are interested in programs. Our offices are inside of the United Way. That's our administrative offices, but we do programming all across Long Island for, all levels. We have an amazing leadership program. So email, go to our website, check out our social media, and follow us.
Well, thank you very much, Renee. It's so great to have you here again. Really appreciate coming back. Look forward to having you again on the show soon.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you indeed. I'd like to leave you with DB's philosophy. If opportunity doesn't knock, build a door. Milton Bell.
We want to thank you for being with us. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, your co-host and producers. Visit nccradio.org for more information. We are available on Odyssey, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and as a podcast on iTunes, Android Podcasts, and Spreaker. This has been Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nats Community College, 90.3 WHPC.